welcome back to another episode of the I Alpha Project. So today I want to introduce you all to a really good friend of mine, someone I've known for many, many years, Mr. Tony Oliver. Tony, thank you so much for coming today.
You're welcome.
Oh, well, I know it's been a long time waiting. We've spoken about this. We've had many, many, many chats. But just so we know a little bit about you, the main thing is you're the owner of Sacred Skin Tattoo in Stones Corner. Tell me a little bit how that all started. What got you into tattooing?
I was getting tattooed by a woman by the name of Raylene Robinson at her Housing Commission house in Woodridge. And I really fell in love with not only her, but the whole process of tattooing. And I eventually asked her if she thought that I'd be able to do it. And I can remember as if it was only yesterday, she replied, "Can you draw, Tone?" I'd never tried. And I went away and got a pad and pen, pencil, and did some drawings and brought them back to Raylene and showed her, and she said, "You can draw."
And just took off from there.
Yeah.
And then it evolved. So how long was it before you decided you didn't just want to be a tattoo artist, you actually wanted to be a business owner and start up your own studio?
I've always been a business owner. In my early 40s, I was tattooing for a guy that had a shop, Frontline Tattoo in Surfers Paradise, and he asked me if I was interested in buying, it was then named Starfire.
Starfire.
And I said yes, and my sister Joanne and I went halves. She supplied the money and I supplied the expertise, and I've been open. This September will be 21 years.
21 years, and as we all know, back in the day, with between the year of 2020 and 2022, 23, there was a lot of changes with studios. The world was shut down, and your studio was one of the few that survived that. When you say survived that, I mean it's like continued. The reputation held its own. People kept coming back. I did do some research, and there were quite a few tattoo studios that did close down. I mean, people were working for themselves, and there was a little bit of a knock in the industry. Very few of the old, reputable names for tattoos stayed afloat after that time period. They all slowly re-emerged as new businesses. But you guys have continued to get stronger and stronger. I personally, from the back end, think it's because you offer something more than just tattoos. And I think that applies to your own personal journey. Myself, with tattoos, it's always been an expression of myself. And the more I learn about myself, I've had that sort of feeling. So it's more of a energetic feel. It's not just art on skin. There's a representation of my personal journey and my energy as well. And I know that not many people know, but you yourself have had your, I would say, challenge with brain tumors and seizures. When did that first originally start?
I first became aware of it at the end of 2013.
2013.
I had a seizure, full shit seizure, and was taken to the hospital, the Logan Hospital, and they said it was down to dehydration. And then I had another one in the early morning while I was asleep. My girlfriend was there, and the first thing that I became aware of was I was lying on the floor and the ambulance guys were talking to me, and they took me to the Logan Hospital again and did a CAT scan, and I remember the doctor was really concerned and serious. He came up to me and told me the news, and I was stunned at first. I've come to see it as a gift.
You were the one who once asked me who would I be with my tube. I tell that story to everybody else, and that was just being the biggest realization of also not identifying ourselves with the condition, but also appreciating the lessons that come with the condition. So I'm not the guy with the brain tumor. I'm the guy learning from the experience of having a brain tumor. And in that process, I do remember like your second surgery where you did have a debulking, and there were a little bit more side effects with regards to your day-to-day lifestyle, from Asperger's, wanting to get the speech out quicker. But one of the biggest aversions was also controlling of your motor skills with your right hand. And you were going through that period being a tattoo artist and all of this. There was that period of hiatus, like the Hierophant in tarot, where you just go into yourself and you process everything. I remember being a part of that journey, but I want you to share what it was that in that experience that got you to, because that was prior to your further research and knowledge and reading of, even though you had understanding of the power of now, the detachment from the ego, back then was your first real experience of having to accept the journey, so much to say. So when this was all happening, what were the greatest fears that you had at that point in time, and how did you overcome them?
My greatest fear was that I wouldn't be able to tattoo at all. My mind was trying to tell my right hand what to do, and it wouldn't do it. And my balance was all skew, and I've got this really good ability to hyper-focus, laser focus on a problem, and that's what I did. I put as much energy into getting my skill set back as I could, and I turned around 2-3 years later and realised that I had surpassed by far my previous skill set.
I would agree. I remember I was one of your first subjects when you were getting back into that, and you did an amazing tattoo of a samurai skull and the detail and that was a few years ago. It's held strong. But I remember that first experience was almost a very emotional, meditative experience for both of us, because we both had very similar journeys at the time. So it became not just a tattoo, it became a presence into the new cycle.
Yeah.
But there is a question, like, in that point of state, most people would also avoid the reality of their thing. So what was it that made you decide to get hyper-focused in that as opposed into hyper-focused into what you couldn't do? There was obviously a shift into that. What's the switch?
I've never been a victim.
That's the second,
and I was confronted with either surrendering to the victim mentality and going, oh, poor me, but I just never considered it.
Yeah.
I always stand up in adversity. I have a whinge for a while, but I eventually stand up and set about the task at hand.
Yeah, I think one thing that always stood out to me is was this constant, and which is being around you has helped me, is this constant way of being in my own presence, owning my sense of power and control within my own sovereignty. And I think that's what victimhood does. It puts you into a place of lack of control. Everything's happening to me. No matter what I do, it's not changing. I'm doomed.
It's not my fault.
And you feel helpless because you've put that. And with you were constantly taking accountability. I can only control what I can do. And I can focus on that and continue to do that and move one step forward. Which we could argue, looking back now, that this growth process that you've went through was actually in your highest good, because you've come out a way better tattoo artist, but not just from the skill itself, but the presence. Because to me, most people that get a tattoo, even if they're thinking it's just cosmetic, there's always a certain amount of energy and commitment to a tattoo, because it's on there for life. And getting someone to just draw the artwork on you versus someone who's going to connect to that and bring that to life, and you could say that it's improved your skills, but it's also dramatically improved that area. How has that helped you in relation to your two boys? As a father, learning that and that experience.
I can't say that it's specifically done a certain thing. I've always, with my two sons, evolved to their level of maturity and treating them accordingly while still maintaining the basic boundaries. I've always pushed they own their fucking shit.
Yep.
And when I heard them duck and weave, I didn't let up till they showed me the energy that I wanted to see, where they admitted what they were doing.
Well, took
and they were trying to duck and weave. And that was where I...
Well, yeah, you drew the boundaries. But I think that was also a very success, watching your two boys grow. I think a big part of that was that you set the example of the behavior you were looking for in taking accountability, which makes it easier to deliver a message because they're not only getting the words, but it's reflected by the same action. And you just hold them to account to what you hold yourself to account.
Yeah.
A lot of people would argue that something like that is control and that it's an expectation on your half and that those kids are allowed to express themselves in any which way. I have an issue with most of those arguments myself because a lot of that is, I think people fail to recognize it's not the habit that we are wanting to change or the reaction, it's the thought process of them slipping into this victim mentality to avoid. And that's what we are constantly not letting slip.
Yeah.
It's that first step, right?
Yeah.
And that is something that I've noticed we kind of have to do all the time.
Yeah.
But the more often we do, we get better at it. So what advice would you give for someone that understands what we're trying to say, wants to be more aware of that? What would be the first step that they could do in order to reach that level of self-awareness where they're not as reactive or working from the subconscious?
Make sure you define your role as a parent clearly and understand that you're not supposed to be their friend. You're supposed to guide them with as little badgering as possible.
Where they have their own experience.
And accept that they're going to make mistakes like you did.
Yep.
Like we did.
And like we're going to keep making.
And I constantly use myself as an example that I've made all of these mistakes countless times. Yep. And I say to both my boys, I'm not gaining anything out of this except that I'm pointing you in the right direction. Whether you go in that direction or not is up to you, but the pitfalls, I'm pointing the pitfalls out. So when you find the outcome is
what you've realised. Yeah, it's sometimes there's unteachable lessons. We can give them advice, but they have to experience it for themselves.
So the light goes on, that's what Dad said. Yeah. I don't like it.
Yeah. And I think that's the one thing I do with my kids as well. And Layla especially sometimes refrains from sharing certain things with me. And she'll share with the mother and even with the brother. And he often says, I don't know why you don't tell Dad, because what you expect his response is going to be complete opposite to what you expect. And I had this discussion with her and I said to her, if you ever thinking about doing something and you don't want to tell me because you think I'm going to have a negative response to or judgment on what you're going to do, then probably don't do it. Because that is just an excuse you're using with your own intuition as why you don't want to share it with me. But if you ever want to do something that you know I won't agree with and you tell me anyways, I'll be your first supporter. Because then I know you've processed it, you've acknowledged it, you've taken accountability for it, and you will deal with the consequences. And I will always support you with those consequences. I will support you navigating them with you. And I think that's the thing, as a parent, I've watched you with your boys. Most people think it's about not letting their child experience discomfort, not letting the child experience stress or fear or these negative emotions. which more often than not come from their own belief systems or thought processes. Where you have often approached it from a place of, I want you to experience them, and I'm here supporting you through that experience. And my only job is to bring you back to yourself, not let your mind run away with you. There was something that you recommended for me to read, was The Power of Now. And then from that evolved into The Untethered Soul, which is another level up from what we often discuss. What was the beauty for you reading The Power of Now?
Eckhart Tolle, who wrote it and narrates it, the first thing I got out of it was the description of our pain bodies. And I hadn't looked at it like that. And our pain bodies, when they come up, they react with all sorts of negative emotion. And I got that straight away, the instant that he said it.
Because you were already in the process before reading the book, you were already doing the work. It was almost just like validation for what you were already doing. I really like that expression with the pain body. When you first mentioned it to me, it's when you break it down, if you get confronted or triggered, the first reaction is physiological. And then it's the brain that creates a thought or reason for that physiological reaction based on our own belief system. And our ego then goes into play and we react from a place of emotion, not reality. And I think that was the one thing I struggled quite a bit with. But you had some really good pointers for me when it came to, so when someone is in a situation and they feel that physiological change, whether it's a tightness in the chest, vibration in the head, we get that little feeling. What would be the first thing that you would advise someone to do in order to not allow themselves to escape with their emotions or their brain?
When you first notice it, bring your full attention and focus onto the reaction that you're having. A famous Indian guru named Bhagwan Rajneesh said, if you've got the reaction, then you've got the problem.
I love that. If you've got the reaction, then you've got the problem.
Yeah.
I love that.
So if you've got the reaction, look at it internally. Don't let it spray out.
Yeah, what are you? Your famous, I love your term. Pass the blame ball.
Yeah, pass the pain ball.
The pain ball. And I think that's also something that I had to become very aware of, because a lot of time, functioning from a subconscious state, when we feel those negative emotions that bring up in ourselves, it's my reaction, but it's so easy to blame the person who brought that reaction up in you. So you made me feel that way, it's on you. And it's very easy to go into that flow.
It's no one can make you feel anything.
Exactly.
You've got to be a willing participant, and people are really, they've been doing it for as long as they can remember, which...
it's part of human nature, I guess. It's
Yeah.
a natural human reactive process. It's instinctive.
Yeah.
In those situations, I find more often than not is something you've also mentioned from the book, where relationships are there to make you conscious,
Yeah.
not happy. So you often find that the people you care about the most are the ones that awaken those parts in you.
Yeah.
And then accepting the fact that this is the beauty of our relationship, is your reaction is your reaction. I love you and I'm here to support you while you deal with your reaction, but not to take blame for it.
Hold the space for the other person, but don't accept any of the blame. Just let it wash through you.
Yeah, because really that would just amplify the situation. If I said something you find yourself reactive to and responded aggressively, and then I did the same to that response, we would just be spiraling worse and worse. Yeah. Which is why I always find nowadays you see people say, I only give the energy I'm matched. whatever you get. And I'm like, well, great, then everyone's going to be fucking miserable. Like, if you're not willing to just adapt into someone's energy, then what sort of sovereignty do you have in yourself? That you are in control of your own emotions. And I think that's taking accountability, something that I've become. I find that the more I do of it, the more I want to do, but the easier it is also for me to maintain my boundaries in a personal perspective, where I'm not seeking validation as much and I'm holding other people to account for their own reactions. I understand that my delivery sometimes needs to improve. That was part of the journey, is as much as I'm doing the work and holding space, that even though mentally I think I'm doing the right thing, I was still speaking of a place of not control, high resistance. Words may be abrupt, a little bit too cold. So even when I dealt with the kids, I would often sometimes catch myself, if they did something that I was either disappointed in, and I was disappointed in their actions, or I would have expected more from them, but they're just being themselves, I would honestly have little moments of realization like, fuck, this is more about my ego than it is about my kids. This is more about me feeling like they're not respecting me enough because of the way they're behaving, or they're not showing appreciation for what I do by their behavior, which is the furthest thing from the truth, because they're just being kids. So I actually found that that was very confronting to accept, because you think as a dad you don't have ego. But even dads want to be the best and know all and give all the information and demand that. So helping me navigate that was removing my ego. Would your challenge with regards to your brain tumor, the Asperger's, having to gain control, was that one way where you pretty much had to remove the ego in order to overcome that?
It was a really, really beautiful experience. I woke up in the hospital after the anaesthetic that they put me under to seal me back up. I couldn't speak. All I could say was, fuck. The first sentence I uttered was, something went wrong. And I was glad to be alive and awake.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that I realised. I was grateful to be alive.
I had the same thing of the first night. I hadn't cried through the whole process of the first day I woke up, tetanus in my ear because I'm deaf in my left ear. Couldn't move, couldn't that, but I remember crying, not because of the surgery, but because I was so grateful to be alive. And consciously thinking, well, I'm not dead yet, that means I've still got a lot to do and live for. And that honest awareness that my life still had so much in it despite that, I think I was very lucky with that as well. So waking up with that straight away, you were already in a place of appreciation.
Yeah. I considered myself to be, in my speech, really eloquent and could modulate my voice and pay attention to the tone of the conversation, and from that to not being able to speak basics. I didn't lose my speech altogether. I was really, like, if
you were really wild in your grammar,
that was fucking. And I realised during that process that 70% of at least 70% of my body language, when I pointed at something and they understood.
They understood, yeah.
And that was a real eye-opener. And I've just about regained my form of speech. It's been 5.5 years.
Yeah. It would have been. And I do remember back then your words, and to pick a phrase, you were very good using your adjectives and verbs to create the emotive aspect. But over these years, like when you talk to people, and even with our group sessions with the boys that we run at TH7, you now communicate way more with energy than just words, by your presence, your contact. And I think that is something that we've lost in today's communication as well. Words are very solid, but then the energy that's behind the words and the intent behind them. Moving forward, just sharing a little bit about work and your business, and anyone who's looking at going into a business such as yours and they're just providing a service, what would be the one thing that you would say that they should remember when attacking a new business plan? Would it be more cross your I's and T's when it comes to the business, or have more self-awareness about what your goals are for the business?
Most businesses fail in the first 5 years.
Yep. What would that be for?
There's a number of reasons. The owner's treating the business money like their own.
Yep.
You've got to be really switched on to successfully own a business for 20 years.
But were you switched on the end result, or were you switched on to the moment and the lifestyle of the business?
I've always, I've not very often worked for other people.
Yep.
I've generally worked for myself or partnership with another person, or a partnership with my wife. Like, I am really good with people, and all businesses are basically dealing with people, and if you don't know how to deal with people in a genuine way, you're fucked.
Absolutely. And I would have to argue that that's what sets Sacred Skin apart from other tattoo studios. There's some great people out there, great tattooists, but you've created a culture in there that it's not just about the tattoo. People just aren't looking at the bottom end and punching out numbers. There's a genuine connection to each client. And I think that's also been a success to your business and the continuation of it from the rollover effect. The amount of lives that you impact at an energetic level, as opposed to just giving a tattoo. Most people will go into a business because they see a really good trend in the market, they can make good money from it, but they're not emotively invested in the service or product that they're selling.
The name Sacred Skin sums
all
it
up, doesn't it? Completely.
The way I feel about tattooing is it's a sacred ritual, and I am really conscious of matching the client's energy and asking them questions that they don't usually get asked.
Yes. Which they often feel like, what's that got to do with my tattoo?
No,
they completely understand.
So I've lost count of the people that I've touched their lives.
Because you've often come back and shared the amount of clients that you've had that have had also a positive. It's always been a very good positive energy exchange where their stories have given you different insight or validated certain things for you. With tattoos and them on the skin, the biggest thing that I've watched over the years is your cover-ups as well. They are sensational. I mean, very rarely do we see the tattoo behind the cover-up. And it's something that I often feel that you don't give yourself enough credit for or market enough, but I've seen a lot of, over the years, the improvement in that. But that comes back to the same thing. There's, like, you've done a cover-up for me that was not negative, it was good, but it was outdated. And I was always concerned with my connection to the old tattoo and the new tattoo, but yet the cover-up was still able to kind of have the acceptance of the past, but it felt like a completely new tattoo. It didn't have any residual energy from the old. So every time I look at it, it's a new tattoo. I don't have the negative drain of carrying that burden, which is very interesting when we talk about this type of stuff, where that's just from a tattoo perspective, but isn't that the exact same thing when we move on in life and we're able to accept and let go of our past experiences instead of letting them taint on the future ones? And you've managed to pull that off with the natural tattoo.
Yeah. When a person comes to me with a tattoo that's a bit ordinary, let's say, and they ask me if I can fix it up, the first thing I say to them, if it's possible, and it's almost always possible, I want to change the energy that you feel when you look at the tattoo.
Wow.
From the way it is now, negative, to really positive.
Yes.
And I've been largely successful in that endeavour.
Very, yeah, in my opinion. So, look, this has been fantastic. There's so much more that I want to discuss with you. I want to go into the mindset stuff, to apply that for people that have conditions, because the amount of people that you've helped and worked with, not just giving tattoos, was in relationships, in parenthood, in business. So there's a lot that I would love to pick your brain, because it's also hands-on experience. But right now, if anybody wanted to get hold of you and have a consult for a tattoo or work some of their pieces, how could they find you?
Sacred Skin and Stone's Corner.
Sacred Skin Stoner. So just jump on Instagram. I'll add the links in the bio as well from them, and they just book an appointment and then have a consult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is even for people that have an idea in their mind of what they want, but they're unsure. I often say, go talk to Tony, because you'll leave there with a clearer mind about what you are looking for from that exploration.
I've got this innate ability to really hear the tattoo that's meant to be on the particular person that I'm talking to, and I ask questions until that becomes crystal clear.
Yep.
And when I do the tattoo, they mostly say that it is exactly what they wanted, and even better than that.
100%. That's the one thing I've always loved, is that every tattoo I've wanted, you've always added your own energy based on what you've spoken to me about. And there may have been once or twice, oh, that sounds like a good idea, I'm not sure. But every single time I've seen it, it's almost like I may have dreamt it, I just hadn't dreamt it yet. And that's what it feels like, the behind your mask on my shoulder and that. And I found that sort of energy and culture seems to be bleeding into your tattoo artists as well, where they're kind of developing very similar skills by watching that too. So I think the Sacred Skin itself is great for anybody that's looking for that journey with their tattoos. Well, thank you very much, Tony. We'll definitely do this again.
Yes, I would really enjoy that.